This is the Volkswagen ID.5 GTX, a performance-focused all-wheel drive electric coupe-style SUV. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. I'm going to tell you all about it in this review. G'day, my name's Matt. This channel is called The Right Car. This could be the right car for you if you are after something that isn't a regular SUV and maybe is very much like a Tesla Model Y. Stay tuned, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe. Let's get to it. There's no pricing and specifications available yet for the ID.5 in Australia. We're also going to get the ID.4. It'll probably be a little bit cheaper than the ID.5 because coupe commands more money, apparently. So you can expect that the price point is probably going to be around $70,000 for the entry-level versions of the ID.5. That's my guess anyway. I know that it's going to be more expensive than, say, the equivalent Tiguan. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Top spec all-wheel drive ones might cost a fair few $1,000s more, but I don't think we're going to get up to around the $100,000 mark like you do in a top spec Tesla Model Y, but this doesn't have the same sort of performance as a top spec Model Y. I've already mentioned the most logical alternative to this car. It's the Tesla Model Y. Plenty of people are buying them, and that might be why you don't want to. I totally understand that, but it is a very practical and very smart car. You can check out my review of it by hitting the link at the top of your screen now, or find it in the description below. I reckon you will find a lot of value in that car, and it starts at, well, just under 70 or thereabouts, up to 100,000 bucks for the performance version. You don't get as much performance in an ID.5 as you do in a Model Y, so that might matter to you. If your budget is at the top end of that range, then maybe also check out the BMW iX3. There's a new sub $90,000 rear wheel drive version of that car. It's fantastic, I reckon, and it does have a lot going for it in terms of the premiumness, the luxury branding, the nice interior finishes, although it doesn't have quite as much EV driving range or as much power. So just keep that in mind. The other option you might want to check out is the Skoda Enyaq. Now, it's coming as a coupe style SUV, fully electric, long range, lots of power and torque, and it could be a really good choice for you if you like the look of it. I could totally understand if you don't though. The ID.5 looks pretty big if you ask me, but it's actually about the same size as a Toyota RAV4. So if you are looking for that kind of family size SUV, then this could be a good choice for you. Like I said, this one is the coupe style model. I'll show you a pic now of the ID.4, which is the conventional SUV model. I like the look of that so much more, but tell me what you think in the comments section below. Now let's check out the boot. Yeah, coupe style SUV. I never loved these boots, but let's take a look. There's 549 litres of cargo capacity in the ID.5, and if you choose the more practical looking ID.4, you get 543 litres, but it's because they measure it to the parcel shelf, not the ceiling. Both versions have a storage space under the boot floor for cables and such, but there is no spare wheel. But one neat feature of the ID.5 I drove was the retractable tow hitch, which pops out at the flick of a switch. I'm not going to go into all too much detail on the interior of the ID.5 GTX. There were audio issues with the recordings for the bits I planned to show you, but just know that you are getting a pretty swish looking interior with sporty GTX embroidered seats. There's nice interior finishes that could also change a little bit by the time we get it in Australia. I'm not sure about the blue trims on the doors and dashboard though. What won't change is the overall design, with a smaller driver info display and gear selector dial at the edge, which takes some getting used to, and the big touchscreen media system will hopefully score illuminated buttons, but you will probably still have to do a lot of the control work for the fan and that sort of stuff through the touchscreen. It is a bit annoying, but you do get used to it. Now, when it comes to second row space, it is pretty good for adults and kids alike. There's enough space for someone to sit behind their own driving position if they're about 6 foot tall, like I am. And there's rear seat air vents as well. And you get ISOFIX points and top tethers as well. So look, it's going to suit families as well as people who maybe use the back seat less regularly. Yeah, pretty good. So what options will you have when the ID.5 comes to Australia? It won't only be the GTX all-wheel drive dual motor version. There's going to be a single motor one as well. And while the current version does seem like it's a pretty good bet, there's going to be more power and torque, is what I understand anyway, with the new version that comes to Australia. Now, that could also mean that the GTX version gets more power and torque than this one does. And look, this isn't short of snot. It's pretty good. 220 kilowatts and 460 Newton meters with all-wheel drive. Yeah, that's pretty good. And a 0 to 100 time of around 6 and a bit seconds. Yeah, ticking some boxes there. The roads that we're driving on are amazing. These mountain passes, I mean, there's so many of them and they're so fantastic, all of them. The only thing that you really find that's annoying is the amount of cyclists and motorbikes and traffic. Everybody loves a sunny Saturday drive as we're doing right now, so it makes sense, right? But let me just say that the surfaces on these roads are exceptional. They're not really representative of anything that we have in Australia, apart from what you'd find on racetracks. Honestly, they are like marble smooth and super duper well maintained. So the ride, well, it's hard to tell you what it's going to be like on Aussie roads because these are not like Aussie roads. But I can tell you that the GTX does have adaptive chassis control, so you can adjust the amount of softness to the suspension or hardness, depending on what you want. And look, I did find at times in just the normal default driving mode that it could feel a little bit sort of pitter-pattery at the front axle, but in a slightly softer suspension mode, it is a bit more, well, comfortable and cushy, while the firmer mode makes it just generally more firmer, but it does ease out some of that unsettled feeling at the front axle. So as I alluded to before, the GTX is all-wheel drive, so it's got twin motors and 220 kilowatts, 460 Newton meters. Like, that's bloody heaps of grunt. But it's probably likely that by the time we get this car, it will have more. So the entry-level version is going to see a power bump up to probably 210 kilowatts and 545 Newton meters just for a single motor. So you can expect that the all-wheel drive one will get more grunt. I'm not saying that it's going to be Model 3 performance-like in terms of the acceleration times or anything like that, but it's probably going to see a pretty sizable kick up the backside when it comes to the grunt numbers. All I will say is, though, that you don't really need all that much more grunt because it is a pretty powerful package. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's undercooked, not to me anyway. Just like in the other ID models that I've been driving this week, I'm not a huge fan of the brake pedal feel. It just has this really sort of soft element to the top of the pedal, so it doesn't have the same sort of feel that other Volkswagens with standard friction brakes have had in the past. I love the feeling of a Volkswagen, like a regular Golf. It just has this bitiness at the top of the pedal, but this car has this squishiness and then it starts to bite. Look, I know it's got regenerative braking, and on that topic, it doesn't have a single pedal driving mode per se. There is a B mode, so you can put it into B by switching this little lever here, and that means that it'll be in maximum regen braking mode, but it doesn't have single pedal driving. It won't come to a full stop, unlike some other EVs out there. But what I can say about this car is that it does drive pretty sweetly. It's refined, it's got heaps of grip, plenty of grip, let me tell you. It hangs on nicely in the bends and it powers out of the bends really well because it's got all-wheel drive. So, yep, it's a really fitting option for people who are looking for an all-wheel drive family SUV. Maybe you go to the snow a lot, or maybe you drive on gravel surfaces a lot. This could be a really nice choice for you. I really like the steering. It kind of feels to me a bit like a Volkswagen Golf, but slightly bigger to drive. Kind of like a Tiguan then. It is really accurate in the way that it changes direction, and it has really nice feel to it too. So I reckon this car is going to do the job for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, and it's also got a bit of a job to do itself to stand out from some of the other models that just the Volkswagen Group is going to offer. Yeah, by the time it arrives, there's going to be heaps of other competition too. In this car, dynamic road sign display. Please clean the windscreen. I don't want to clean the windscreen. Coming. So ID.5 GTX. This car keeps coming up with beeps and bongs, telling me that front assist is unavailable. I've had this happen in a bunch of VW products in recent times, and you probably have too if you own one of these cars. It's really bloody annoying, isn't it? Tell me in the comments if you've had this issue. On your screen now, you'll see the official energy consumption. That's the WLTP official figure for what the ID.5 GTX claims right now. But as I've mentioned, the version we get might not be this version, so don't pay too much attention to it. Just know that it is pretty efficient for an all-wheel drive electric car, and I've seen some pretty impressive numbers over this several hundred Ks of what feels like fairy tale driving in the Alps of Austria. You'll see that number on your screen now, and it wasn't just me driving this car, it was a mix of different people across a few different days, so that's probably a pretty realistic figure of what you can expect to see. From this first drive of the ID.5 GTX, I reckon it's a pretty compelling thing as it is, but the updated version that we're going to get in Australia will probably be even better. So stay tuned. I reckon there's going to be a lot to like about it. But tell me what you think in the comments section. Would you choose it, or one of the other EVs I mentioned, or something completely different? I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please do hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.